Once you have created your agent in Azure, for that agent, Azure does show you the sample code that you can use. For example, this is the code that I could use for this agent, the Oracle Concepts RAG, which is a chatbot, and this is the code in Python, and I could deploy this from another server, an app server. So essentially it uses my Azure identity to connect and provides the endpoint and the calls I would make. So what I did was I just took this code exactly as it is, went into Visual Studio Code, and then put in this chat to my builder. I think I was using Claude Haiku at that time. I just said create a wrapper function Python that generates a GUI screen that I can invoke and execute the call. So this for this code that I have here, okay, I just went into Visual Studio Code, put in this prompt, and it gave me refactored code. Okay, and this is the refactored code you can see here, which will connect to that endpoint and that agent, which I can show you again. This is my agent here, Oracle Concepts RAG, and we already know the endpoint for this project is over here. Let me just go back to, so this is the endpoint, and within the endpoint because I have multiple agents, I can specify which agent I want to connect to. This Oracle Concepts RAG with version 6, and that is what I have in my Visual Studio Code here. Connect to that agent. I've been testing with different GPT versions also, so I'm using GPT-5 for example here. Let me see if it shows here. So GPT-5 chat, and I tested through different versions. This is the current version of this agent, and I use this prompt to rewrite the sample code that I received here, so that I can run it from my desktop. Okay, so let me just close this file, and let me just run it from here. So this is the chatbot that I'm going to connect to Oracle Concepts RAG. But instead of doing it from the playground, if I were to put in the playground here, for example, so I put this from the playground, and I get a response. And I've already shown you that I could have defined it to use a vector store with multiple documents. In this case, this is actually using many documents. Okay. So if I just go into Python and I execute the same code that I just showed you just now, and I get a GUI front end. This is my Oracle 26AI database concepts RAG, which is the same one here. If you go back to the playground, to the agent definition, and I can see that it is configured with this display name and so on in the playground, but I can run it from my desktop here. And it executes it. So I can run multiple queries, multiple prompts from my desktop. They will go to this agent that is running over here in my AI Foundry on Azure and execute. So it's quite simple to do it that way. All I do is I just put in this, I just copy the code that is provided. This is the sample code, and then put it into Visual Studio Code and open and then execute that. Let me just show you. Rewrite the code using vibe coding. So this is what I wanted to. This is what I was talking about in my last video. Instead of running my chatbot through the preview, through the playground here, I can now run it from my desktop using Python to develop the GUI front end. So these are the questions I can do from my desktop. And the advantage is what I've configured is I've configured uh, uh, via Azure CLI. I've installed Azure CLI, I've installed Azure projects in Python, I've installed TK Inter, and then it does authentication because I've already configured AZ login to my tenant. So now I can run this Python program directly from my desktop and view the output. So, so once you build your agent here, you take the sample code, take it down to your desktop. If you still want to test it from your desktop, use a prompt like this one. You get a new program and you can then execute it directly from your command line. And I can just exit like this.